So I just finished watching Flame of Recca, and I have so many mixed emotions right now because on one hand, this anime did a lot that I really enjoyed, but it also did a lot that made me feel frustrated, exhausted, and really disappointed in a lot of what it does. And it's really interesting because there were some of these fights that were animated so beautifully that I was just awestruck, and I couldn't believe that this isn't a classic anime that everybody talks about. And then it's all the other things. So Flame of Recca really was a spur-of-the-moment watch for me, and I never expected to fall in love with it purely based on its aesthetic with the first minute of watching it, because it's got that 90s grit with the high black levels, the way the colors are saturated, and that little bit of fuzz to it and everything. And it was something that I knew I needed to stop and go watch on my CRT, because that really heightened the experience to it, because it was just right for watching on a CRT, I think. But actually, as I continued to watch it, I felt I was becoming more interested in its story and the characters too. And it's nice because the premise of the story is based in the Sengoku era, the Warring States era in feudal Japan. So basically, you've got Nobunaga Oda in their version of their history. Nobunaga Oda was feeling threatened and paranoid by the various ninja clans because they were so powerful. They had all of these crazy magical ninja weapons, and he felt paranoid, and out of a desire for self-preservation, he decided to wage war against the ninja clans, and he was actually victorious in doing that. And Recca, it's gradually revealed to him throughout, the introduction of the story. It's something that he learns very early on, that he is or was the chosen one from the Fire Clan, and he's actually a reincarnation. And I also thought it was interesting that the character who would become his primary rival in the story also has a history that goes back as being a reincarnate of someone from the Fire Clan. So he's got that ancient animosity to it. And Recca also has a score to settle because he did some things to Recca in his past that I don't want to get into too many details about that. So I thought that was a really interesting story, far more interesting than I was expecting, because I heard, the negative things that I hear about Flame of Recca, it's always people comparing it to Yu Yu Hakusho. And for me, one of my major complaints about Yu Yu Hakusho was that they had this ancestral backstory to it and everything with the demons and all of this other stuff with the demon realm. And I thought that was kind of just slapped on right there at the end. And it really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and I didn't like that. But with Flame of Recca, it actually is baked in, and it's consistently relevant to the story as you go on. And of course, Recca is joined by all of his friends. He actually has this one girl that he really is in love with, and I like the fact that they added a little bit of romance to this as well. I guess that's another reason why people compare this to Hakusho, because Hakusho actually did a really good job with the romantic and emotional aspect of it. So here, Recca actually has his love interest, aka his princess, and he is her shinobi who will protect her at all cost. And although I really enjoyed the sweetness of the characters and how that's portrayed on screen, it was nice seeing that, but at the same time, I feel like this element was really something that made the plot feel kind of repetitive, because I would say the story breaks down, or at least the anime breaks down, into 3 major arcs. And within each of these arcs, there's always an element of having to save the princess from the villains here, and I felt like that made it a little bit monotonous. It almost reminded me of Bleach, because Bleach has a lot of rescue missions there too. I also really liked how they detailed some of the antagonist characters as well, because as the story unfolds, you'll actually learn more about them, and some of them actually have a dramatic backstory to them, and there is a bit of development for some of the antagonistic characters here, which I actually really enjoyed, especially considering the way that the plot was unfolding. I just didn't expect that level of depth out of some of the villain characters here, but it actually surprised me. So getting into the plot, it's really unfortunate because this is honestly the weakest point of the entire series, and it's such a massive blow to the overall viewing experience here, and it's something that I could never take seriously, maybe for the first 15 episodes, maybe 15 episodes I was into it, but it was always something that was nagging at me, this nagging suspicion that it's gonna be bad, and it primarily boils down to its main antagonist, because I'm gonna show you these two characters here. Like, which character do you think is gonna be the main bad guy out of the series? Because one's the main bad guy, the other one's the underling. You've got, in one corner, you've got Kure, who's got this awesome character design. He's incredibly powerful, and Recca stands no chance against him. He's got reason to be the primary antagonist because he has a grudge that goes so far back. And then in the other corner, you've got Kakai Jimbo over here, and all he wants is just the healing power so that he can live forever. And as far as I can tell, within the scope of the anime, he has no relevance to anything. He has no connection to anything other than the fact that he's Kurei's father within the story. You know, the fathers are not really relevant because it's more so about their ancestral, I guess, their past lives and everything. So the blood relationships are less important here. But with old Jimbo over here, I honestly felt like there was never a single moment in the entire series that I could take his character seriously. He never once felt like a worthy adversary for our heroes. Even like if you were to take him almost towards the end of the series and pit him against our heroes in the beginning of the anime, it's like, I feel like they would still beat him up then. My main issue with the plot is that it's monotonous, and also, it's probably a controversial opinion here, but I really feel like most of the time tournaments are lazy writing, because of course there's stuff like Hajime no Ippo. Obviously a tournament in that circumstance is very good because it is a sports anime and that's how it works. There's a bracket and you move through it and you fight stronger opponents as you go along. Obviously that's good. The problem with most tournaments in shonen anime is that they're not actually tournaments. They're basically just team gauntlets that look like this. If this were a real tournament, our heroes would eventually fight each other. Now, the team gauntlet structure isn't inherently bad. In fact, many great anime use it, but with two major differences. First, the space between the fights are filled with meaningful plot progression. Secondly, the enemies are relevant to and grounded within the plot. If both are well done, then you won't notice the gauntlet structure. However, in the case of poorly written shonen anime like Flame of Recca, there's no intermittent plot development and many of the enemies make their debut appearance within the fight. Although they attempt to introduce some twist reveal implicating the fresh baddie into the anime's lore, all it really accomplishes is feeling contrived and introducing so much mid-fight dialogue that it breaks up the action and kills all of the excitement. And I guess the icing on the cake is that it is an incomplete experience to it, because to me it felt like the first arc and the second arc were nicely paced in terms of how long they took, but then the tournament arc just felt like it took forever. It felt like the entire second half of the anime, and I was just sitting there just frustrated with how long it just felt like it outstayed its welcome. And I was thinking, like, we gotta be somewhere close to the end of the anime, but there's no possible way that this thing's gonna wrap up. And then I check what episode I'm on, and I see I'm only 5 episodes away from finishing it, and I'm just like in disbelief at that point. Like, what's gonna happen with the ending? Did they rush it? Like, what's going on? And then as I continued it, I got to the last episode, and I realized that Flame of Recca is one of the biggest FU go read the manga endings that I've seen in anime in quite some time. It's just like, what is this? There's zero closure whatsoever. And I guess what makes it worse is that, like, when I look back at everything that's happened in the Flame of Recca anime, it feels like the only thing these characters accomplished is making more friends and getting stronger. That's the only thing they accomplished out of the entire anime. So then I was like, okay, the OVA, that's gonna save it. It's gonna give me the closure that I need for this experience. But no, the OVA is actually the animated version of the final volume of the manga. So I don't know, but it seems like there's a lot of content that it skips. I will actually put it on the screen. I'll do some research. I want to know if it gets better. I want to know what happens with the characters and the rivalries and everything, but I just feel like betrayed and defeated. It's really sad. And I really hope one of these days Flame of Recca, people talk about, oh, Yu Yu Hakusho needs a remake. Yeah, of course there are things that can be fixed in Yu Yu Hakusho, but come on. Flame of Recca needs a remake. I'm going to give Flame of Recca a 6.75, and I rarely go into the quarters with this. I usually give, a whole score or a half score, but this is a very complicated situation for me. So if you're not into Shonen Battle series, this is not going to change your mind. And for those who are into it, I feel like there's a lot of other ones that you could probably watch before this and enjoy more, especially knowing that, there's no ending to it or anything like that, and you got to read the manga. But this is kind of a spur of the moment thing for me. I'm recording it really late at night, no notes or anything like that, but I just wanted to get it out, or else I felt like I never would.